Good morning, everyone. Happy Sunday to you all. Let's begin with our opening hymn, Gather the Spirit. Gather the Spirit, harvest the power. Our separate fires will kindle one flame. Witness the mystery of this hour. Our trials in this life appear all the same. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind. Seeds for the sowing are laid in store. Nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fled by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength. Gather to celebrate once again.
Good morning. Good morning. My name is Carl Tramontana, and I've been a member of UUCD since 2005. And my wonderful family, Julie, my daughter, and Nancy, my wife, are very happy to be part of this loving community. And Julie Tramontana is the first Unitarian Universalist in the Tramontana family, with Nancy and I both being raised as Catholic. And we're very happy about that most of the time, meaning our daughter has many things to say, and we raised her with an open mind, so she tells us how she feels. Welcome to the online service of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. We're so glad that each of you are able to join us this morning, and together in community, we can ensure that social distancing does not mean social disengagement. Our weekly services are more than just a gathering of our physical bodies. It is a forming of a sacred time that we have been making together for 199 years now. Just look at the rock outside of our house. You can see that beautiful stone. As we work to build a more just world. And in that sense of sacredness, along with deep respect, we acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional land of the Paugussett people. Whether you are well versed in the technology of teleconferencing or not, we welcome you. For those of you new among us or reconnecting with fonder hearts, we invite you to introduce yourselves and where you are connected from in the chat box as you are comfortable. After our service, we invite you to stay and participate in a breakout group for individual connections and a deeper check-in. Whatever the faith and traditions of your past, whatever your theological stance, whatever your heritage, whoever you are, and whomever you love, we welcome you. You can learn more about us on our website and Facebook page. We encourage you to share our Facebook page and reach out to others who may feel isolated and might benefit from the spiritual connection with our loving community. So, a little announcement here. Please join Reverend Kathleen for small group gatherings to break bread together. BYOB, bring your own bread, not beer, chair or blanket, and whatever you choose to eat or drink. Well, I guess you can then drink beer, but we will gather outside, social distancing at USCD, weather permitting. If we need to move indoors, masks will be required. Spaces are limited as groups will not exceed 10 people. Email Rev Kathleen at minister@uudanbury.org to reserve your place. You will receive a confirmation within 24 hours. And finally, and once again, welcome to the UU Congregation of Danbury, where we welcome all in a spirit of compassion, inquiry, and service.
Good morning. It is so good to be with you today. And I am at UUCD. I am in the Fellowship Hall of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. So if you hear a slight echo, you will know it is because I am here without all of you filling the room. But as Nancy Hirschadter said, it makes it a little more spiritual. Maybe it's like Reverend Kathleen Rudolph coming from St. John the Divine. So however it works for you, it is good to be together. I share with you these opening words from Suzanne Meyer. We have come together today not because we expect to find answers here, but rather because we expect to be encouraged in our questioning. We have come together today not because we expect to find perfect people here, but rather because we hope to find authentic people here. We have come together today not because we're certain of our own righteousness, but because we are continually searching for the right, the good, the uplifting. We have come together today not because we need to be told what to believe and how to act, but rather because we need each other's encouragement to act according to our own best beliefs. For all of these reasons, and so much more, we have come together. We have come home. We have come to this spiritual home today.
Please join me in the words of our chalice lighting affirmation. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And now please join me in our Unison Children's affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. And now please join Reverend Kathleen for our Time for All Ages.
So I've written a little story today for you, for the children, and for the child in each of us. This is a story called Welcome Home. It's a personal story. When I was a little baby, I lived in Oklahoma with my mom and dad. And I got to see my grandma, my great-grandma, and my great-great-grandma because they all lived in Oklahoma too. But then I moved away. In fact, from the time I was a baby to the time I went to college, I moved 10 times. After college, when I moved 4 more times, I moved 19 more times. I moved from Oklahoma to New Jersey, to New York, to Texas, to New York again, back to Oklahoma, to Arizona, to Connecticut, to Chicago, to California, to New Jersey, to Connecticut, to New York, and finally, back to Connecticut once again. That's a lot of moving, isn't it? That's 29 homes. I lived in houses and apartments, a hotel, in a basement, and even above a garage. I lived in small homes and medium-sized homes, and a home where one family lived upstairs and I lived downstairs. Some homes had big yards to play in, and some had no yard at all. Some homes had deer who would stop by for a little snack. And when I visited Burundi, this is a country in East Africa, I got to see just how different some people's homes were from mine. It was very different. A dirt floor with mats on the ground for beds, no electricity, and even a goat in the corner. But their home was just as special to them as mine was to me. And when the mother of the family, you see her in the picture holding the youngest baby, when she invited me inside to see, she said, "Welcome home." Now, my friend from Burundi who was with us said she really meant to say, "Welcome to my home." But I love that she said, "Welcome home." Once I wanted to see the home where I grew up in when I was a little girl, one of those many homes. It was for sale. And it looked familiar, but it had also changed. It didn't look exactly like the home I knew. I was feeling kind of sad that it didn't look like my home anymore. But I realized that a lot of things change, and what's important is that I have my memories of all the fun times I had playing with friends and swinging on that swing set with my brother when I lived there. Home sometimes means the building or the place we live in with our family or by ourselves, what it looks like, how big or small it is, but home can also be other special places. Maybe for you it's at the beach, or out on the water, or even hiking in the woods, or just playing at grandma's house. Home is where you feel safe and where you feel love. Now, many years ago, before I became Reverend Kathleen, I went to a place that felt like home. I walked in the door and I said, "This feels like home." They called it the barn. Maybe you've heard of it. It's what the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury used to be called. And one of the things I did at the barn, I joined the knitting ministry. You know, so many things have changed at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury, and some of the people you see in the picture are still here, but some are not, and I miss them. The building doesn't look the same because we're in a different building now. We're in a different location with our new name, and sometimes I miss that barn, but I can hold on to all of my fun memories. Like one Sunday, I got to be May Queen in the maypole dance out at the barn. And I can make special memories, new memories here with you. Now, maybe you've had to move to a new home. Maybe you've moved a lot like me. Or maybe so far you've lived in one wonderful place. But I want you to know that no matter how many times you might move, even if it's 29 or 30, I want you to know that you can always call Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury home. Even if things might look a little different sometimes, even if we have to wear masks when we're together, even if we have to see each other on the screen, UUCD will be a place where you can feel safe and where you can feel love. I know that because that's how I feel when I am here, when I am with you, when I am with everyone here. So I hope that when we are able to be together, when you can all join me here in the fellowship hall, when we see each other, we'll say these words: welcome home. We come to a sacred time in our service called Shared Milestones. And I know that we have some visiting us today who have not been to one of our services before. So let me tell you about this sacred time. It is a time unlike any other in the life of a congregation on a Sunday morning. It is the time when we bring our full selves into view by sharing the milestones of our lives, the deepest joys, the deepest sorrows. We share them, we lay them here with the community, that they may be held for these moments that we are together. So I invite you, if you feel so led, to type in the chat box what your milestone is today that you bring as you bring your whole self to this service. What shared milestone will you bring? And if you have a small bowl of water, as many of us do in this community, that you might drop a stone into, or if you have a candle that you might light. We will do this together, and we will listen to the music as we share this space together, and we share the milestones of our lives. We have shared so much together. You have brought so much here with you. I am going to light one additional candle for all of the milestones that may not have been typed into the chat box, but I know are being held in your hearts at this time. Let's hold all that we are, each of us, in a moment of silent reflection. However you find this time, if you pray, I encourage you to pray. If you meditate, I encourage you to do a little mini meditation here. And if you just need to sit in the quiet, do that. But let's hold this sacred time, all that has been shared, the births, the deaths, the joys, the sorrow, the concern, the questions. Let's hold it together in a moment of silence, and we will come out of that silence hearing that beautiful hymn of reflection, Spirit of Life, and then we will sing together. Join me in the silence. This morning's reading comes from Emily Dickinson. The props assist the house. The props assist the house until the house is built. And then the props withdraw, and adequate, erect, the house supports itself and ceases to recollect the augur and carpenter. Just such a retrospect hath the perfected life, a past of plank and nail and slowness. Then the scaffold drops, affirming it a soul.
Nancy, can you please read that again? You
Yes,
were
I
muted.
certainly can.
Thank you.
I muted and she unmuted me, or vice versa. Okay, rewind. It is now time for our congregational offering. If you're with us for the first time, feel free to pass the virtual plate. Your presence here is your gift to us. Members, please express your generosity by clicking the link that will be posted in the chat to make a donation or pledge. Even though we are not in our sacred space on the ridge, we are creating this holy place together, and our operating expenses remain the same. You may also mail a check to UUCD if you're old school like me at 24 Clapboard Ridge Road in Danbury. And thank you for doing your part to support and sustain this community we love. Please join me in our congregational response. In the spirit of compassion and service, we dedicate these, our offerings.
She closes her eyes, she clicks her heels together and says, "There's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home." Dorothy may have popularized the phrase in the 1939 film, The Wizard of Oz, but it's actually a quote from a song, Home Sweet Home. You may be familiar with the song, but I wonder if you know that it was written in 1823, and it comes from an opera, Clari. Mid pleasures and palaces though we may roam, Be it ever so humble, there's no place like home. An exile from home, splendor dazzles in vain. Oh, give me my lowly thatched cottage again. The birds singing gaily that came at my call and gave me the peace of mind dearer than all. Home, home, sweet, sweet home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. And may I be so bold to say, there is no place like the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Danbury. A spiritual home that I am grateful to have come home to after 18 years. I won't say I spent 18 years wandering in the desert, but it was a long 18 years of being away. I was a member of The Barn, the first iteration, or not the first, but an earlier iteration of UUCD. I was a member, my children were in the religious education classes. I made lifelong friends. I took on leadership roles, and I was sent to seminary with the blessing of this congregation. This home, celebrated in my ordination, sent me a comfort shawl from the knitting ministry when I was in health crisis. This home comforted me in my grief. And when my life challenged me to the point where I felt so lost, I knew I could come home. I could come home to this spiritual home. So to be here today as minister is surreal, to say the least. How truly blessed am I? I have come home. Home. I hope with all of my being that you have places and people in your life that you can call home and that you can come home to. This morning, as the service was starting, we asked you to type in the chat box what home means to you. Some of you said, a place where you can be yourself, where I feel fully known and unconditionally loved, where I can most be myself and feel connection to all of my family. Home is a people, and where the heart feels a stirring of joy. Well, of course, home is more than a house. It's more than a property or an accommodation, and yet I cannot help but think of those today who are without a home. Those who live under the threat of becoming homeless as the pandemic has upended their lives by taking away their jobs, taking away their childcare. Those who live in the parks, on the streets, and in the shelters across this country, across this state. Those we help to feed at the Dorothy Day Soup Kitchen here in Danbury. And I would be remiss if I did not claim aloud that I am thinking of the heartbreaking scene of people fleeing their home of Afghanistan, and people grieving over piles of rubble in Haiti. Immigrants who have left home in total desperation, seeking a new home in this country. Most of these people will not be able to come home. They will seek shelter. They will seek home. But who will be the props that assist the house for them? How can you, wherever you are, I know we're coming from California and Connecticut and New York and New Jersey today in this service. So wherever you are, how can you and how can we at UUCD serve as carpenter, as nail, as plank to those who would seek shelter and seek home? It's a question for us to consider, each of us, as we consider our calling in this home. Our calling here in this congregation defined by our mission, stating we are an open religious community working with others to create justice. We teach our children, as Nancy led the children's chalice lighting words, we teach them that we are people of open minds, of loving hearts, of helping hands. So I ask you to take time in the coming weeks, not to forget about it. I know it's ugly. I know it's not nice to look at. But I ask you in the coming weeks to sustain your gaze on those who are seeking home. And then consider, and together, let's address that question of how we can be the props that assist. It's unlikely that any of those fleeing Afghanistan or the new homeless in Haiti or immigrants desperate to come here will ever return to what they once knew as home. We may be able to return to a physical location, you and I, but can any of us really come home in that literal sense? I would posit no. Not to what once was or what it was imagined to be. Now, there's certainly times in our lives when we wish we could go back home to a life we had or to the world before the pandemic. We can be sentimental for people and places and experiences. And I want to say right now that nostalgia is not all bad. In fact, there's recent research on this very topic that claims nostalgia can be a mental health positive when it helps us feel more connected or when we can use it to draw internal motivation or creativity. It's when it becomes anxiety, when it becomes an unrealistic picture of past reality. Remember the good old days. It's always the good old days. How good were those days? Really. When that becomes a focus and it keeps us from living in the present and accepting the life we have, then nostalgia crosses over. It crosses the line into unhealthy territory because changes are inevitable. Perhaps for ourselves, we can begin to imagine the idea of coming home through mindfulness. I'm going to ask you to take a little journey with me right now in reimagining this idea of coming home. Coming home through the mindfulness teachings of Thich Nhat Hanh, the Vietnamese Buddhist monk who lives in Plum Village, France. From his walking meditation, he talks about, and just imagine this for yourself, taking 3 steps, breathing in and taking 3 steps, and with each of those 3 steps saying, I have arrived, I have arrived, I have arrived. And then breathing out, imagine yourself with 3 additional steps. And as you're breathing out with those 3 steps, you are saying, I'm home, I'm home, I'm home. I have arrived, meaning I don't need to run anymore. I don't have to go looking for anything more. I am home, meaning I have come back to my true home, which is life here in the present moment. Because every step we take, Thich Nhat Hanh says, every step that we make in awareness brings us to the present moment so that we can actually touch the wonders of life, the ones that are available to us right now. The Buddha said that the past is already gone and the future is not yet here. There is only one moment for us to live, and that is the present moment. I have arrived. I am home in the here, in the now. In the here, in the now is the address of life. It's the place we can come back to, our true home. The here and the now. That idea of living in the here and now is painfully revealed in the life of my 93-year-old grandma. You saw her in the very first photo in my children's story. I plan to visit her, my only living grandparent, in September. And the truth is that I don't know if she will remember me. It's been 2 years since I've seen her, and she has fairly advanced dementia. I will go to the state of my birth, Oklahoma, although I will not go to any home that I associate with my grandma or my childhood. Grandma lives in an assisted living facility where she cannot leave unless she is accompanied by a family member. She lives in the now, the right now, moment to moment, not remembering that she just said goodbye to her 91-year-old boyfriend, or that my aunt has picked her up because it's her birthday, or that her grandchildren and great-grandchildren are waiting to celebrate that birthday with her. She can't go back to some previous home or an idea of home. She has no choice but to literally live in the moment. It will be a bittersweet visit. I will be reminded that home is so much more than a physical place. I will relish the memories. Remember in the children's story, changes are inevitable, things will not look the same, but we can hold the memories. So I will relish the memories of my grandma. A grandma, let me say, unlike any other. No cookies baking in her oven. No. We might get a fig Newton if she was feeling generous. She's still feisty, my grandma. But my memories are of this little spitfire that jumped on trampolines with her grandchildren, hung from the trapeze bar on her great-grandchildren's playset, and labeled her red wine in the refrigerator prune juice so that none of the children would try to take a sip. While I can't come home to Grandma's house, I can come home via the memories in order to feel connected. And it's so good to feel at home, isn't it? Wilfred Cantwell Smith was a Canadian Islamicist, comparative religion scholar, and Presbyterian minister. He famously referred to faith as, and I quote, a quiet confidence and joy which enables one to feel at home in the universe. Now, I know that there are some of you watching right now who may be thinking, her first Sunday in the pulpit and she's got to drop an F-bomb. Yes, I did. Faith. Faith has always been an important word to me because for me, it has just simply meant trust. But Smith says faith not only has not so much to do with belief, he said it has less to do with belief than what he calls a quality of human living. Faith, a quality of human living. Faith is something that grows within us as we come to the place of trusting and testing, leading us to a settled sense of meaning. I mention this today because as we explore this idea of coming home, of living in the present moment, of using nostalgia as inspiration, I want to encourage us to embrace one of the ways that we develop this faith. And that is how we project a sense of home outside ourselves. Think about that. A way that we grow our faith is how we project a sense of home outside ourselves, how it embraces others, even those significantly different from ourselves, how it extends to the world around us. That is a way to grow and develop our faith. Because we are all longing to feel at home. So let us project this sense of home outside ourselves that is welcoming. Because so many we all long to feel at home, whether we are in Connecticut or California or Burundi. We long for a place of community where hands will open to receive us, and our strength will be joined together to do the work that needs to be done. And there is so much work that needs to be done. We need a community that holds us when we falter, a place where we are safe and we are loved. We project a sense of home, and we are the props that assist each other, but we don't withdraw, as Dickinson says. We may step back to allow for independent flourishing, but we don't withdraw. We are the props that assist, and we follow the example in this community of those who've gone before, like our beloved matriarch Ann Thorpe. We are the props that assist, and we follow the example of those who have moved from this home to new homes, but are still a part of us and with us today, like our beloved Douglas and Mary Lou Parkhurst. We are the props that assist, and we follow the example of those who have gone through our religious education program and bridged into adulthood, like our beloved Sequoia Lowe. We are the props that assist for those who are seeking a spiritual home and have been visiting us through our online services in order to connect with us, like the Canuel family. The Canuel family of Ryan and Jessica and Willow and Addison. They have been joining us in our online services for weeks, looking to connect, seeking a spiritual home for their growing family. And I had the joy and privilege of conducting a private blessing ceremony last weekend for little Addison, meeting grandmas and godparents and being welcomed to a home that they have made of love, a home that nourishes this young family. And all week long, since that time with the Canuels, I've considered how this community, how UUCD must be the props that assist our children as well as each other. We project a sense of home so that our children know this is a place of safety. This is a place of love. One of my Connecticut colleagues, the Reverend Josh Pollock, says, "We come home when we're longing for foundations, for roots, for love, for care and nurture. We come home when we're yearning for community, for familiar faces and places, familiar food, smell, touch, land, seasons. The work of coming home includes listening, sharing, sacrificing, forgiving, and building community. Coming home requires its own kind of courage and strength, its own kinds of persistence and endurance. It requires vulnerability, humility, and a willingness to set one's own needs aside, sometimes, in order to meet the needs of others. I have arrived. I am home. I am in the here and now, with memories to sustain me. Join me, if you will, closing your eyes. Lift your heels together if you like, and say, there's no place like home. There's no place like home. There's no place like home. May it be so.
Please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again. And now our closing hymn, we give thanks.
We give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
May you go from here encouraged in your questioning, having met authentic people who continually search for the right, the good, the uplifting. And may you go from here knowing we need each other, you and I. We are here for each other, you and I. And yes, you can come home, to this home, again and again. Shalom. Salam. Amen. Blessed be to each and all. Namaste.